Pokemon is one of the biggest game franchises that exist, so obviously there are going to be a lot of developers that try to make their own version of it. So, with all the different monster collecting games that are out there, it can be a bit difficult to find the really good ones. I think there are a few things that make a really good monster collecting game like Pokemon. Diversity of monsters, so that doesn't mean just a number, hundreds and hundreds. It means having a lot of different types that have unique abilities and that have unique visuals. Think, Pokemon, the old show where it would have the silhouettes. You can tell what they are, so that's a really good way of figuring out if it's a good design or not. It should have a satisfying game loop, so for Pokemon, that was exploration, story, leading up to getting your gym badges. Fun and uncomplicated gameplay. So you want the ability to customize, test out new monsters, and do that sort of thing. But if it gets too much, too complicated, it just becomes confusing, becomes kind of a time sink. So let's check out some of the games that do it the best. Cassette Beasts is one of the more recent games that has taken the Pokemon concept and turned it into something new and unique. Instead of capturing Pokemon and using them to fight each other, you record monsters in retro cassette tapes and transform into them as you fight. It also has a mechanic where you can fuse two beasts together to create an all-new form to battle with. It otherwise plays out fairly similar to the Pokemon style as you fight across the open world. You can even use your monster abilities outside of combat to glide, fly, climb, dash, and turn magnetic, allowing you to get around and solve different puzzles. Cassette Beasts was a pretty big hit, and it was a very small studio consisting of only 3 members. You can play Cassette Beasts on Switch, Xbox, and Steam. Shin Megami Tensei is a bit of a darker, more mature take on the Pokemon style of collecting monsters, with its own long and storied history. In fact, the first game in the series came out a long time before Pokemon, by almost 10 years. It does monster collecting, or in this case, demon collecting, in a unique way, giving you the ability to negotiate with various demons in order to add them to your team, and then allowing you to fuse those demons together to create new ones. Older Shin Megami Tensei games could be a bit more rough to get into, with their dungeon crawling style being tailored towards a more limited niche, but more recently with Shin Megami Tensei 5, it has opened things up a bit, taking some steps towards being more accessible without ruining the things that made Shin Megami Tensei such a good series of games. Shin Megami Tensei 5 has a bit of a remaster that is coming out on all platforms with updated visuals, new paths, expanded exploration, more demons, and improved combat, so that's a lot of different things. It's called Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. It was already worth playing before, and now it's even better. Koromon is a bit more of a classic traditional take on the Pokemon style that keeps things simple. With 100 different creatures with different elements, traits, and skills, you can catch and train any of them. It has a decent sized map with 6 different major regions and cities on each region. There are many different kinds of areas to explore and keep you busy. It also has some key differences from Pokemon with mid-fight evolutions, more detailed difficulty settings, and a stamina point system where you use stamina when you use abilities. So, if you're looking for something a bit more traditional, Koromon is definitely a good choice. You can play Koromon on Steam, Switch, Android, and iOS. Digimon is a classic series that surfaced almost at the same time as Pokemon, only a year later. It was originally released to be a competitor to the Tamagotchi, a pocket-sized monster-raising toy with a digital screen. Now, Digimon has grown into something much bigger, though it never quite achieved the same level of success as Pokemon, but that's nothing to be ashamed of, considering that Pokemon is the biggest franchise that exists in anything. Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth is one of the better Digimon games, with over 300 different Digimon to collect. The story, as the title suggests, focuses on a cyber detective who is attempting to solve the mystery of patients who use the cyberspace network Eden, as many of them have succumbed to something called Eden Syndrome. The complete edition of the game adds 92 new Digimon and continues the story of the first game in the sequel, called Hacker's Memory. You can play Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth on PS Vita, PS4, the Switch, and Steam. Dragon Quest Monsters is a series of monster collecting games that originally started on the Game Boy Color, and now the latest game is Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. This time it stars the main antagonist of the 4th Dragon Quest game, Sorrow, who is on a quest to defeat his father who put a curse on him. The Dark Prince features over 500 different monsters to collect, including some new ones that were created specifically for this game. The monsters in the Dragon Quest Monsters series have been monsters from the mainline series, Dragon Quest, so if you're a big fan of Dragon Quest, part of the fun comes from rediscovering and fighting monsters you've seen over the years. And if you like the idea of Dragon Quest monsters but would like a different style, there are plenty of games in the series to pick from, as there have been 7 different Dragon Quest monster games. Dragon Quest Monsters The Dark Prince can be played on the Nintendo Switch. So there are 5 games to start with, but there are so many different monster collecting games out there, so don't be afraid to look around and try them out. If there are any that you think deserve more eyes on them, go ahead and put them in the comments. Thanks for watching.